Hello, and welcome to this first lesson, an introduction really into how to use this thing called Snap. Now, you might have heard of build your own blocks before. Snap is the new name for that. And if you've heard of neither before, it's a bit like Scratch, but a little bit different. And let's jump right in and have a look at it. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is open up Snap, which is located at this website here, which is snap.barclay.edu. Okay, pop that into your web browser of choice. I'd recommend Google Chrome, but obviously anything will work. And you will come to this page here. And once you're here, press Run Snap, this big button on the top left. So once we are in Snap, you will notice it looks a little bit like Scratch. We've got our different categories up here at the top, so we can choose kind of control, sensing, operators, motion, look, sound, pen. We've got our area over here for our output, our kind of game area, our canvas, if you like. We can also name our sprites over here. We've also got our stage. We can select our sprite down here. We've got our scripts, costumes, sounds. So it's very similar to Scratch. And if you've never used Scratch before, I'd really recommend kind of starting there and then coming over to this, unless you're very brave, and then by all means stick with it. So we are going to start with some basics, and then we're going to keep building and building and building throughout this series until you are a Snap wizard. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to look at the pen tool. So the pen tool has two very important blocks, pen down and pen up. Now you can think of the pen down as the pen being put down onto a piece of paper, and the pen up as the pen being pulled away from the piece of paper. And this allows us to control whether we are drawing or not. So let's see this in action. Let's grab a when green flag clicked from control, and let's also tell our sprite to move 100 steps. Okay. So I'm going to press green flag and my sprite moves 100 steps, and I press it again and it moves 100 steps. Now, if I keep pressing it, it's just going to run away. It's gone. Come back. Help. Oh no. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to start in the same position every time, and that will hopefully stop it running away every time. So let's come over to motion again, and let's grab a go to block, and we're going to pop that right at the start when the green flag is clicked, so that every time it comes to the middle and then instantly zaps across 100 steps. So we shouldn't ever see it moving now. No, we never see it moving. Okay. One way we can see where it's come from, though, is by telling it to put the pen down before it moves 100 steps. So puts the pen down and then it draws a line, and we'll be able to see a trail of where it's gone from. So let's have a look. Let's play it now. And we can see now that it has drawn a line from the middle. It's gone to 0, 0, which is right here. And then it has drawn a line of 100 steps long right up to the tip of the sprite here. Okay, so we can then pull the pen up, and we could move another 100 steps, and this time it would not draw anything. You can see it's finished over there, but it's not drawn a line because we pulled the pen up away from the paper. So the last bit of its journey, it didn't draw anything. So it's important to understand what these two do, because not using them properly can result in some pretty funky and weird things happening. Now, what we're going to do today is, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a square, and then you're going to do something more impressive. You're going to be much better at this than me. I'm just going to teach you some little bits and bobs, and then you're going to go and be amazing at it. So what I want to do is I want to take this. I'm not going to worry about pen up just for yet. We're going to pop that back in a bit later. What I want to do is I want to move 100 steps, and then I want to turn, and then I want to move another 100 steps. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so you can see that my arrow now, it has turned a little bit and it has moved that second 100 steps on a different angle. Okay, so now we can start using this idea to draw a shape. So this isn't going to draw a square though. 15 degrees, turning 15 degrees is not going to draw a square. What do we call a right angle? How many degrees in a right angle? I believe it's 90. Hopefully you knew that. So if I pop in 90 degrees here and hit play, okay. It's all gone wrong. What's happening? Well, we had the pen down, so our sprite finished here last time, and then the next thing we told it to do was go to 0, 0. Oh no. So it went over here to 0, 0, but it still had the pen down, so it was still drawing. And then it was still at a funny angle. So then it went down here, and then it turned 90 degrees, and it's all gone wrong, okay? So what we need to do is we need to tell it to put the pen up as soon as it's finished doing what we've told it to do. Otherwise, it's going to get bad, Okay. We also need to clear the screen. We need to get rid of anything that's on the screen. So let's jump into pen, and we're going to tell it right away, clear whatever was on the screen. We don't want all this rubbish on it now. Okay. We just want the new thing that we've drawn. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to get very cluttered very quickly. And one last thing we want to do, if I press green flag now, it's not great. This is I want it to do the same thing every time. It's spinning around like a windmill, but that's not what we want it to do. So what I want to tell it to do is I'm going to tell it to point in the same direction every time it starts. So if it's pointing right, it's always going to be pointing in that direction. It's going to move 100 steps. It's going to turn 90 degrees. And then regardless of where it ends up at the end, when it restarts, it will reset where it's pointing to. So now if I hit green flag, okay, it always does this. It never kind of spins around and does weird things. So we have got a little bit of setup code here. So we've told it to clear the screen, we told it to go to a certain position, and we told it to point in a specific direction. Next, we're telling it to put the pen down because we're ready to draw, okay? And then we're going to start moving along, moving down, okay? So you can see here that all we're doing is a series of instructions. Move 100 steps, turn 90 degrees, move 100 steps. What's my next instruction going to be? I think you're right. If you didn't answer, then you weren't right. But those that did answer, you're right. We should turn another 90 degrees. And it's really important that you get the correct turn. There are two different turns here. And if you get the wrong one, you'll start going back and forwards and it won't work. So make sure you stick to the same turn every time. And now we can see that at the end here, something very subtle has happened. My sprite here is just turned to face this way, ready to move another 100 steps in the other way. So let's just duplicate this block of code. Oh, I didn't want that bit. And let's pop it in between here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw that third line. Here we go. And we've turned again, ready to come up to the start. And we're going to duplicate that block one more time. And we're going to pop it here. And we are going to run this. And now we have a square. And every time I hit run here, we just draw a perfect square. Nothing changes. That is fantastic. But this code isn't very good. Okay. This is the kind of code that drives me mad when you see it, because we've got the same instructions over and over again, okay? There's no need to have the same instructions over and over again. Look at this. Move 100 steps, turn 90 degrees. Move 100 steps, turn 90 degrees. Move 100 steps, turn 90 degrees. This is daft, okay? We want one of these, yeah, for sure. But what we'll do is, instead of getting all of these 4 times, we'll just tell the computer to do these instructions 4 times. So let's jump into control and let's grab a repeat block and let's say, hey, computer, I want you to put the pen down. I want you to do this a certain amount of times, and I want you to put the pen up. Now, if I tell it to do it 1 time, it's going to draw 1 line. If I tell it to do it 2 times, it's going to draw 2 lines. If I tell it to do it 3 times, you'll never guess how many lines it's going to draw. That's right, 3 lines. You did guess it. And 4 times will, of course, draw all 4 sides of my square. There we have it. So now every time I click the green flag, it draws 4 lines. And I only have these 2 blocks to worry about in how I draw my square. So if I wanted to make my square larger, I would just have to change, or smaller, I would just have to change this number in here, and that would change the size of my square. So maybe I'll make it 10 rather than 100. So now when I press play, I get a very small square, okay? And if I was to change this to, let's say, 200, I would get a very large square, okay? Now this square is actually going off the end here. So what I might do is I might just change my starting position up here to maybe minus 100 and minus 100. That's not what I wanted to do. Positive 100 for Y. There we go. And now I've moved it up and it's more into the canvas here. Or I could set it to do 1,000 steps and it would go miles off the canvas and I wouldn't be able to see half of it. Or I could tell it to do 1 step and it would be absolutely tiny. It's just a little tiny dot there. Okay, so we just have to make very small changes here to affect the size of our square. If I had all of those other blocks in, I'd have to change it 4 times the same number every time as I went through, and that would get really annoying and confusing quickly. So I have made a square. Okay, I've got code here. I'm just going to change this back to 100 just to give us a nice square shape. Okay, I've made a square. Your job now is to take what I have shown you. Okay, so thinking about clearing the screen before we start, starting at a certain position, pointing in a certain direction, so getting set up and ready to go, telling the script when to put the pen down, when to put it up, and thinking about the code that's going to draw our shape. How many times we need to repeat certain instructions in order to draw our shape. Okay, you are now going to go to the Google Doc that is along with this video, and I would like you to complete the challenges in there. I'm asking you to draw a triangle in there, I believe. I believe I'm asking you to draw a pentagon, and I think there are a couple of others as well. And you are going to draw each one for me using something very similar to this. Now, what I would recommend you do is maybe just edit this code, yeah? Or if you want to save this code, maybe you don't want to like overwrite this, then you could just take this away from the when green flag clicked, okay? And you could just start building your new block of code on when green flag clicked. So I might say clear, and then I might say, I don't know, move 100 steps, and quickly grab my pen down and my pen up. So this might be my new code, so I could play that and I just draw a line. And then if I'm like, oh, well, what about my square code? I can then just change these and pop my square code back on and I can draw a square, okay? In the next lesson, we're going to be learning a more efficient way to do this. But for now, stick with this. And I would like you to try and draw a triangle, draw a pentagon, draw the other shapes that are in that Google Doc. Make sure you copy and paste your code. So if this was my code for my square, I'd copy and paste this whole block, nothing more, okay? Just this block, and I'd put it into that document, okay? Persevere. This is for you to try and figure out for yourself, okay? So play around with it. You're not going to get it right the first time, but that's okay. Keep playing around, tweak the numbers, be curious, and I will see you in the next episode. Awesome.